Hello and welcome to the Web 2.0 appeal for Pear Deck. My name is Daniel Peavy. Today we're going to be talking about the ins and outs of Pear Deck. So, an email will be sent to y'all shortly after this meeting with this PowerPoint in case you would like to go back in and check any specific detail out about Pear Deck. But let's go ahead and get started. So Pear Deck is mainly used as an interactive learning assessment ways that teachers can kind of create formative assessments for our students to figure out if they're truly understanding the material. It's a way for the students to kind of tell the teachers, hey, look, I'm not understanding this, I'm having trouble. Or if they do write something down, but it's not completely right, it gives the teacher the opportunity to provide them feedback. So this is just kind of a few little takeaways from this. Pretty much how to start Pear Deck, got to have it as an add-on, how to make it more interactive in your classroom, and how to get the lesson started. So first, let's kind of break down what standards this goes with. So this goes along with the National Education Technology Standards for both students and teachers. Specifically for this one, we're going with the first one, Empowered Learners. To be even more specific on this, we're going with 1.1c. Students use technology to seek feedback that informs and improves their practice and demonstration of learning. So, we ended up finding a few articles on this. I kind of just narrowed it down to two, but the first one that we're going to be talking about today is Mr. Eric Gross, The Impact of Pear Deck on Student Achievement and Perception. Written when he was in Northwest College. The link is provided for our board members to kind of see more information on this. But to kind of give an overview of this, he looked at student achievement and understanding of the learning that was going on in the classroom. He specifically picked out 10th grade social studies group students for this field. And what he found out specifically, as it says, the outcome of the research provides positive quantitative evidence in favor of a shift away from teacher-led social studies lectures and toward a more student-centered classroom involving the use of interactive technology. In his article, he goes on to say, it is possible to boost student achievement and satisfaction in the blending learning environment due to enhanced formative assessments and feedback. He goes on by saying, the value of the formative assessment in the classroom to get the teacher and student feedback is invaluable to student achievement and perception. One of the students themselves actually said this next one. It says, it helped me think more deeply. I've seen more misconceptions more clearly by comparing the responses of my friends. And so in this particular article that he has, he never really gave us any true examples of questions that were going on in the classroom, but he did give a survey out to the students, anonymous to where no one can understand or see who's saying what, but these are some of the questions that he asked. So these are directly to the students. He says, were you more motivated to learn using Pear Deck than the traditional lecture? And between strongly agree and agreed, 92% of the students agreed with this. Now, between this, 15.4 said strongly, 76.9 said agree. Here's a article, the actual one that he posted as far as data for this one. Key point to point out on this too, he had the selection to where students could put strongly disagree, and nobody ended up picking that. And as far as disagree, 7.7. The next question he says was, do you feel you learned more during Pear Deck than traditional training? And once again, that same percentages were there. 92% said agreed, and then same percentages for strongly agreed and agreed. And so once again, same question. No one ever put disagree, and you still have your 7.7%. All right, then his last one. You prefer Pear Deck or something similar to it when learning social studies content rather than lecture. And so with this one, 84%. So it dropped off a little bit, but still, we had a huge increase of strongly agreed than prior. So between this, a lot more students said strongly agreed. You still have a few that disagree, but still there is none that are saying strongly disagree in this. All right, so that's just social studies, but we know we have different contexts. So for this one right here, we have this other article, the impact of interactive learning by Pear Deck during COVID-19 pandemic era. So these are by the two people, I'm sorry if I butcher their name, Haryana and Ayinitias. Once again, apologize if I butcher the name. The link is provided. But in this particular article, they look at what the online learning looked like before and after COVID, and look at the meaningful growth in learning that takes place. In their particular article, they take 20 students, and in this one, they're looking at algebra. Now, I don't know about y'all. I was not a good algebra student. Math was very hard for me. I had to kind of be in the classroom to understand it. So during COVID-19, there was a lot of fear and, concerns on how students would learn material during this time. So they kind of take the step and look at it in this way. But they're looking at pretty much Pear Deck or similar products like this, if it's very good to substitute these instead of having it in a classroom setting. So with this, they looked at prior COVID-19 learning activities and online apps and presentations to see what they had and how students used them beforehand. And what they found out is if teachers and students continue to use this, there's going to be a sharp decline in student academic interest and performance. One key takeaways that they found out from this is that Pear Deck was able to pretty much fix these problems. And what the problems that they really noticed was dealing with teacher response and feedback. From what students said, they said that it was old traditional way to where a teacher would present something, the student would do whatever assignment was, the teacher would then grade it. There was never any feedback on saying, hey, look, you need to change this before you turn this in. Some said due to skill, some said due to the technology that they had at the time, it wasn't able to do those types of things. So they go on by saying, giving real-time feedback is always beneficial to ensuring that the students have a correct understanding of the material. However, giving real-time feedback while the teacher is always a challenge. So after they provided Pear Deck to teachers, they noticed 3 key takeaways. In Pear Deck, it provides students the ability for repetition and correction on material. Next, able to give instructions, but go step by step with the students on whatever problems they have. So with this one specifically dealing with problem solving, the students can follow along as the teacher goes along. And then lastly, giving student feedback for clarification and any misunderstanding of items. So teachers are able to see real-time responses and provide that feedback appropriately to those students at that time. So some of the examples that they have. This was a question that came up on Pear Deck. Had the question above, and the students were able to draw in that blue little square in the middle what this would look like. And so here's the response from the students. The teacher's able to see all these responses and kind of notice, okay, are they getting it? Are they not? Is there some misunderstandings? And as the teacher can see, there's different ways that the students are drawing these lines. So they're able to pop in, either talk to the whole class, or if they want to go specifically to students, they can say, hey, look, you're doing this a little bit off. Make sure you check this. Another one that they had is this one. They asked the students this question. To answer these questions, please draw the network using the tools below. And so as students are doing it, they'll turn it in. And then from there, the teachers can then provide some sort of feedback specifically to the students and then release it back to the students for them to fix, change, or at least understand why did they get that question wrong. Alright, so let's kind of dive into what Pear Deck looks like. So on the left right here, this is what the teacher will see. On the right, this is what the students see. So if there's a question that's provided, the students will have that little text box. And this is going to change throughout. So it's not just question and answers thus. This is kind of how a teacher will go in to add Pear Deck. Of course, have some sort of Google slide or Microsoft Word. Make sure they have the extension. Click add-on and make sure they click on the Pear Deck, because with this, the students have to log in. So this isn't an extension for the students per se, but it is an extension for the teachers. The students have to go to what is called joinpd.com, enter in a code, and then they can get involved in this. So there's different types of questions that the teacher can ask. So they can give them a text, choice, numbers, websites, draw, and dragability. So I'm going to kind of go through some of these. So with text, that's the more simple ones that we know. A teacher can ask a question, and then the students respond back. Different levels of questions, however you want to ask, the what, the how, and the explain kind of prompts. If you want to ask students for their opinions on certain things that they've talked about. And then, of course, the biggest one, that feedback. Hey, is there any questions that you have? Is there any misunderstanding? Multiple choice, pretty simple, pretty easy. You don't always have to display the answer choices on the screen. You can go on ahead and ask the question, and then on a separate side, put what that different answer choices is. So, for example, on this one, right? Which of the following activities could be utilized for choice questions? So, for me, this is how I do it. I would click on where it says choices over there, and I would type different types of multiple choice. So here at Brunswick High School, we have what is called Pirate Prep. It's the first 10 minutes in each class where you have a question. For the most part, we usually go with Pirate Prep on that. Maybe towards the end of class, you have a check for understanding of multiple choice questions. Maybe some of these resemble certain questions that may be on the quiz or similar to the quiz. There's always a true or false question that you could display to them, or of course, maybe all of the above. Numbers. So this one I can see more for math or for science. Teacher posts a question or a formula, and then the students then have to calculate on a note or on their computer, then type in what do they think the correct answer would be. Websites. For the most part, it's always hard for students to kind of focus their learning or focus where they need to get material from. So it's easier for us teachers to go ahead and have 2, 3, 4 different websites for students to pull that information. Draggable. This one is the most entertaining. Students really get into this one. You can ask questions like circle the correct response. When I say this, what do you think? Draw a picture that represents this, or illustrate this type of concept for the students. Simple situation like this, or circle the person that represents this phrase. Maybe in literature, right? You have a mind map, or you want to create some sort of thesis, and so you try to develop this idea for them. So they have to draw out what concepts really goes with that central idea that they're creating. Dragability. This one is a little bit more tangible in the sense of you can kind of go either way you want with it. So at the end of the day, yes, students, how do you feel about that? Do you understand it? Are you still a little bit confused? Or stop, I need some help. And so there's those types of things that can help us out. Agree or disagree. And so you can pop this up and let the students see, okay, who agrees and who doesn't. It won't show up names, but you can see, okay, the class does agree, the class doesn't agree. You don't have to create your own PowerPoints. If you already have Google Slides, continue using those. Don't reinvent anything. But this right here is the biggest thing. This is where the data collection is. You can see what your students have written, and so you can check them, providing any feedback that's necessary. Or if you see a question or a comment that's really good, you can put that star right beside it. They can draw anything, text anything, but ultimately with this is how it's going to help benefit the school and help us do better. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please.